What's going on, boys? Norgad here. Welcome back to another video. Now, today's video we got an explosive sprint tutorial. A new edition of FIFA 22. I'm going to explain to you how explosive sprint works, how to use it, and how you can implement it into your game to improve your performance. Now, on a basic level, what is explosive sprint? Now, there's a lot of confusion around this because people are doing it without realizing they're actually doing it. And the reason why is because the button is just a run button. So you probably have done it before in a game, but you haven't realized how to do it or how it works or how it's affecting your gameplay. But it's a new feature this year, and it basically gives you additional acceleration to help you break away from your opponent. So it's perfect if you're running in behind, let's say, for example, or you want to kind of sprint past your opponent with that speed boost. That's why the main benefits of it. Now, it is essentially a sprint boost, and what happens is that in the initial phases, you get a sprint boost. It helps you break away from your opponent, and then basically it tapers off. So it's only in the initial phase, so it only lasts for about a couple of seconds or so. You get that sprint boost, then it tapers away slowly, and then it runs out. Then you have a cooldown period. And that is basically the sprint boost, I suppose you can say, the theory of it. So how do you do it and how does it all work? Well, I got the controller at the bottom of the screen, so whatever buttons I'm pressing, you can see the exact buttons I'm pressing for both Xbox and PlayStation as usual. So what it is that the game rewards your timing and your positioning to give you a sprint boost on the ball. So as I said, you're probably doing it, but you're not realizing it. There's two most imperative things. Number one is you're using the run button. So by default, it's R2 on the PlayStation or RT on the Xbox. But the context is very important. Running is just one part of it. The second part is you have to be running in a straight line. And when I'm talking about a straight line, I'm not talking about a straight line with jogging in a straight line or running in a straight line. I mean, like, you're actually facing a direction and going in that direction in a straight way. If you don't do that, you'll only get the partial effect. So that's the biggest thing. People are not running in a straight line all the time. You're not realizing when it's being effective. So the most effective time is if you're breaking away or getting it behind, or if you're running directly in a straight line, as you can see in this example, and you get that sprint boost, and you can actually run faster than some opponents who actually have fast sprint speed or even faster sprint speed than yourself, depending on the angle and the context. So the thing is, what is the context? What's the scenarios? What's all the ins and outs? I'm going to go through that. This is probably one of the most difficult skill moves to master. I wouldn't say it's a skill move per se, but there's a skill gap in it to when to use and how to use it. So basically, you can either use it when you have possession of the ball, so when the ball is at your feet. My best advice is just use your left analog stick. Don't press any other buttons. Left analog stick and then the run button to activate it. That is all. So you can use it when you have possession of the ball, when you're dribbling, but you can also use it out of possession. But you probably won't notice it as much, but if you're running with a player out of possession, like with a player lock in theory, or if you're playing with co-op with your friends, you can notice that as well. But you can't use it on the ball approach. So if the ball arrives to your feet and you hold the run button, it won't work. So you have to have the ball in your feet already, or let's say you're running in behind, but don't forget you have to be running in a straight line. Now, the timing of when to use it is very situational. You can use it if you're jogging, normally with the left analog. Let's just say you're jogging about, and then you can use the run button to give you that sprint boost. As you can see, the ball goes just a bit further away than a typical touch would give you. Not like a super knock-on, but just enough to kind of push you in direction, but to have control over the ball. I would say mostly jog and then use it when you're running in a straight line to give you that sprint boost. So you can see in some of these examples, I'm running in somewhat of a straight line, or at least I'm facing a straight line first, getting that line ready. Remember, facing forward. It doesn't matter what direction you're facing, as long as you're facing or you're going in a straight line. Don't move your left analog stick one way forward and then use the run button. You can see I'm getting these short bursts of the explosive sprint. So I would say, in my opinion, this in the beginning phases, use it in short bursts. There's also a cooldown period, so that way you can't overuse it. And as I said, don't forget, you get the initial sprint boost and then it tapers off slowly by slowly. But don't worry, this one is a bit confusing to understand, but we're going to go through some examples and I'll walk you through exactly how it works and how I use it in the game. Okay, we're going to go through a couple of examples. I want to go through different situations where you can use it. Then we'll go through some online examples of how it's used in game. And this will help you understand it a bit better, because this one is a bit complicated, this explosive sprint. But as you play the game more and more, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because you'll see it yourself and you'll feel it in the game, if that makes sense. But the basics, I want to show you one example. So this is one example over here where Mane gets the ball, and I use explosive sprint to dash away from the first player, and I use, as you can see, in sprints. But you can see it tapers off, and you can see over there, you can't over abuse it. So that is the point I was making. So we're just going to go back over here. And you can see when I get the ball, this is what I meant by the game rewards you for your timing and the context. So for example, here I'm running in a straight line, and you can see my opponent is also coming towards me like so. But I'm just using my left analog stick, no other buttons are being pressed. and I'm holding the run button like so, as you can see, and that is it. And then you can see here, I get that sprint boost. You see how Mane knocks the ball a bit further ahead? What I'm going to do is I'm going to slow this down halfway, and you can see I align myself facing forward. It doesn't matter which way you're facing, as I mentioned, as long as you're going in a straight line. Then I hold the run button, you can see, look, I get that sprint boost. See that? And see how mine just swings in front, and then when I let go, the sprint boost goes away. So what I would say is just use it in short bursts when you have the ball on your feet or when you need it. Because I said it's all about timing. You know, you can use it to push the ball ahead a bit further along, like so. But again, don't forget, you can't abuse it. So if someone's right in front of you and you use it to run straight into them, you're going to concede the ball, you're going to lose the ball. So the most important thing I would say is use it in bursts, and only use it when you find this space in front of you or you want to skip past your opponent. So we're going to go to another example now. Focus on Salah, who's got the ball right now at his feet. I just want you to focus also in contrast to the other players. This is AI running, but just look at the speed difference that you can obtain. So you can see, for example, like here, as you can see, when I get the ball, the bit of sprint boost, I'm running in a straight line. Then I let go. And then when you're inside the box, see, for example, like here, I choose a direction first, I face in a straight line, and then hold the run button to get that sprint boost. And you can see in this situation, I got a penalty. So I'm going to take it back just a second over here. You see how the most important thing is I face a direction first. I want to make sure I'm running in a straight line. So you want to make sure you're going into a forward direction, fully facing forward. And the way that I do it is I tap it. So the first initial touch, I would suppose you can say, when you use it is that sprint boost. And that is the way I would say to use it in the beginning phases so you can get used to it. And then when I was talking about going in behind, you can see, for example, in this situation, when I'm running in a straight line, you see how you break away from your opponent, and you see how I'm running a bit faster compared to the rest of my opponents. And that is, of course, the sprint boost. Unfortunately, the chance then goes astray towards the end. But the most important thing, when I take it back just over here, you can see I'm running in a straight line. You see that? And this is why I said it's good to break away from your opponent. So if there's space in front of you and you hold the run button, you're going to get that sprint boost. Of course, the faster player stats, the faster they would run. Of course, if you're a slower player, they'll be slower. But that is one context where it's very, very useful to run in a straight line. But if I deviated, let's say, for example, in any way in this situation, let's say, for example, if I went upwards, then I will lose that sprint boost. So it's important you stay in a straight line. And as I said, you get the initial sprint boost, you see? So it's very, very, I suppose you can say, got a high velocity in the initial phases, and then it starts to taper down and you return back to the normal speed. So as you can see, that's what my opponent then catches up to me towards the end. So it's only effective in the initial phases. I want to show this online example over here. I'm going to play it. And you're going to see in this situation where I use it to basically beat some players, I suppose you can say, when I use it sporadically. And this is why I think it's very effective. It's a bit hard to say whether this is the actual use or the actual best case to use explosive sprint. But this is the way that I do it. And this is the way you can learn to use it. And then, of course, you can use it for longer periods of time. So I get the ball, for example, like here. Then I face a direction. And then I hold the run button, as you can see on the bottom, to then get the speed boost. Then I let go. Then I create the angle, run in a straight line again, and I use the run button to take that. And you see how that ball just pushes a bit further when I even use it to take the goalkeeper. Now, in this situation, I move at a different angle. So it's debatable whether the game registers as a sprint boost or not. In all honesty, EA haven't told us this, but I find that if you're going to put that in explosive sprint category, it is really, really effective. So you can use it basically in bursts, or that's the way that I use it, as a dribbling mechanic to actually boost or get that speed boost away or to break away into the space. Because don't forget, you push the ball a bit further ahead. It's not like a super knock-on where the ball goes further ahead, but you can push it just a little bit where you have control over the ball. And that's why I think it's very, very effective to beat players. Have a try inside the game and you will see what I'm talking about. Just a few more examples I wanted to show you. Another one where you can see the explosive sprint gives you that ability to pace away or dash past your opponent. You see with Emre Can over here, you can see when I have the ball, I'm running and I dictate the line. So I know I want to go straight ahead. So I'm facing completely forward, as you can see, to the right hand side. And then I time the run button, you see. And that is where you can get that sprint boost the best. So that is why I would say use it in, I suppose you can say, in bursts, unless you're running in behind. And that's why it's very, very effective in burst plays. And then the final example I wanted to show you is one of how it works. I've slowed this clip down halfway for you. And you can see, don't forget, it doesn't work in the initial phase when the ball arrives to your feet. You have to either be in possession of the ball or you have to have the player just running in a straight line. So that's why it's very, very important to understand the reasoning. So when the ball arrives to my feet over here, I see when I hold the run button, there's no explosive sprint activated. You see, because the ball hasn't yet arrived to my feet. Once the game registers I'm in possession, normally that's when you take a touch on the ball, then you can see, watch the player. You see then how he starts sprinting ahead and sprinting forward. So you do get that speed. Then you can see it tapers off. So you can basically judge it by the larger touches, I suppose you can say. So that's why I'd say use it in bursts. And that's why it's a very, very effective means in the game. That's how I'm saying a lot of people are probably using it, but even like yourself, you're probably using it in the game, but you don't realize you're actually using it. But now you understand it's all about the context. My best advice, as I said, is to use it in bursts. So I would say most of the time, just jog. And if you find a player is coming towards you, then you can use it to burst past them into the space. Again, it's very, very risky. For example, in this clip, you can see I skip past multiple tackles, but it's not always that way. So you have to remember, it's very situational. Sometimes it works and sometimes the game rewards you, but the safest bet is if you're going in behind or you're running into space, you do get that sprint speed. So if you know, for example, you're running into space in front of you, clear, instead of angling yourself left and right, just run in a straight direct line, whichever direction you're facing. And that way you get the highest velocity. And then of course you'll be more further ahead to then make the play. So that is my best advice. So if you're running in a straight line, there's space in front of you, then use it as you will. But if you're talking about in most contextual situations, I would say use the jog button and then use the explosive sprint as almost like a speed boost to skip past your opponent, as I showed you in some examples. And that is the best way to use it. With this one, is a bit of a tricky one, as I said. You'll have to practice it in the game. And then once you play a couple of games, you'll kind of understand how it works. And come back to this video and refer back to it, and you'll see what I mean when I go over the examples. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time.